Yo, how's it going, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of the Guru Nation podcast. That's right, we are back. I'm your host, Spencer the Guru, welcoming in everybody. And of course, the Guru Nation. Those have been rocking with us since day one. Appreciate y'all coming back. We've got a mock draft for y'all, baby. Mock draft 2023, the full first round, all 31 picks this year since the goofy Miami Dolphins lost their first rounder. So we're going to get right into it here, y'all. Stay tuned. Hello, what's up, Guru Nation? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Guru Nation, baby. We back and live. And of course, we got this mock draft. This is now our third year in a row doing a mock draft episode. And we couldn't do it without our special guest. He was kind enough to join us for a third straight season. This time we finally got him here on camera. We had him on the phone line the last couple of years, but this year we got it to work to where we can chop it up face to face. So let's welcome him in, y'all. Chief Scout, editor, the Great Blue North Draft Report, Mr. Pigskin Paul.
Hey,
How's it going,
Spence, how
Pigskin?
you doing, man?
Hey, doing good, man. Doing good. Glad to have you again. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. And as everybody can see, I got the face for radio, not TV.
Hey, it's all good. Likewise, we make it work. We make it work.
There you go.
So, but yeah, can't wait to get into this mock draft. We'll have all 31 picks for y'all down to the Chiefs. We're gonna start at the Panthers, who own that very first pick after a trade. And I tell you what, Pigskin, I don't know if I've ever seen this many pre-draft trades before. There was so many trades that went down before we even got started picking.
Yep, exactly. I tell you what, it is a new world out there in the NFL with how people look at the draft and the value of it. I think we learned, some people learned a good lesson, and I felt vindicated being a draftnik from way back when the Rams won the Super Bowl and they were flying high, and Stroud says, "Oh yeah, F the picks, F the draft picks." Yeah, okay.
Picks.
What was their record last year? Yeah, and they're still cutting players because they were so far over the cap. Sorry, folks, you got to build your team through the draft primarily.
Yeah, for sure. Because look at the Rams. They say F them picks. They would have had the 6th pick in this year's draft, but because they said F them picks, the Lions, who are a team that's trending up, now have that 6th pick as well as the 18th pick. And last year, the Lions had a better record and have even more in their arsenal to improve, whereas the Rams are, down bad, as they say. No draft picks early, and no real veterans on their roster outside of they've still got a core of Stafford, Kupp, and Donald, but outside of those three, they have nothing.
No, I know. And the side to the draft that a lot of people don't still understand, and I'm not claiming I understand it 100%, but part of the deal is that you get the draft, and the draft allows you to find good talent, but it keeps it at a low price for 4 or 5 years. And you do it the way the Rams did, and all of a sudden they wake up one morning and they're in draft hell and their toes are burning.
Yes, yes, as they are this year. And we'll see here. We got the board pulled up here. Going to lay it out here before we get started. We've got the all 31 teams here, starting with the Panthers, going down. See the Lions there, that 6th pick would have been the Rams, and we keep going here. Other teams too have that situation, like the Broncos. The Broncos gave up. They got back into the first. They gave up their original first to the Seahawks, and then they got back into the first via the 49ers here at pick 29, and then gave that up to my New Orleans Saints, who were able to buy back into the first round thanks to the Sean Payton trade, because they had given up pick 10, what would have been pick 10, to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, see, Sean Payton's gone, but not forgotten. He's still giving to the Saints. right?
Right, right. I'm glad they at least got a first rounder out of it because boy, that was all that drama. Oh, is he gonna come back? Is he not? And then
Yeah.
he didn't want to come back. So I was like, well, we better get something for you since you're still under contract, asshole. But that's a whole nother that's a whole nother story we'll get to maybe later. But we've got this board pulled up here, and to start, for the sake of time, because I know a lot of y'all are busy, don't want to be wasting time here. Bryce Young's going first, y'all. Like it's a done deal. Carolina's like, I mean, they traded up to one. They knew who they wanted. And at first, though, a lot of people had it that it'd be CJ Stroud from Ohio State. But as time's going on, it appears that it's Bryce Young. And to me, what really sold it was that Bryce Young canceled all of his other pre-draft
Yes.
visits. That tells me
Yeah.
that he's going one. It's set in stone. No drama there.
Yeah. You don't have to read between the tea leaves on that one. That's just a fact. But you get to pick two,
Yeah, and
and
that's where it
as
gets
you
spicy.
yeah, and as you and I were talking briefly off air, getting ready for this, you got a general manager, Cesario, with Houston, who's from the Belichick tree. So he ain't giving anything away at this stage of the
100%.
game. But I will put it succinctly. I think Stroud is the real deal. I think he can be a good NFL quarterback. I think, believe it or not, I think the Texans have done a pretty good job the last couple of years taking a trash roster and finding some good. They had a good draft last year. They got some good solid players. Now, if Michi from Alabama comes back healthy from his cancer, that gives them a slot receiver.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what, if Casario starts playing games and he doesn't take CJ Stroud, they may lynch him in the city of Houston because that means you're going into next season with Davis Mills backed up by Case Keenum. Are you kidding me?
Stinky,
That
stinky.
oh man, that's an NFL expansion team, right?
Right.
So I will just go out and say, oh, and by the way, that little tidbit that came out that CJ Stroud basically was at the bottom of the new testing that they do that replaced the Wonderlic test. A day after that Bob McGinn put that out, I saw 3 different message boards from the people that run those tests, and they said, not true. Don't know who gave them that information, but that's not the scores that we had. Enough said. CJ Stroud goes to the Houston Texans.
All right, all right. Yeah, CJ Stroud, the number 2 QB on the board, 4th overall on the Great Blue North Draft Report big board. So, yeah, locking in CJ Stroud, can't argue with it. I don't know what the Texans are going to do. Not sure if they're going to actually do this, but to me, this would be the most logical decision. And like we were saying about Casario playing the cards close to the vest, I would think if he's smart, he'll go ahead and take to me, by far the second best QB, because I know Stroud's got his flaws, but to me, he's a lot less flawed than Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, who come in pretty high, both top 10. But I mean, shoot, if you're able to get a guy like Stroud, it's like, you got to take advantage of that. Franchise QBs don't grow on trees. And him and Young, to me, are the closest things in this class to being potential franchise quarterbacks. And if you've got Davis Mills and Case Keenum, you've got to upgrade that. It's time to
Yeah,
get out the doghouse.
absolutely. Absolutely. And as Daniel Jeremiah continually says, and I listen to the Move the Sticks podcast a couple times a week, you can talk about next year all you want, but the reality is you and your team may not be in a position to get one of those couple of guys next year. You'll surprise people and play yourself one win out of being in the top 2 or 3 picks,
Yeah.
and it'll cost you so much to get up. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Take the pick. Take Stroud. Work with them.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, because I mean, he's got a little bit of flaws. His pocket presence needs work, but he's got a cannon arm. He's accurate, especially over the middle of the field. So to me, that would be the smart pick. But moving on here to pick 3, got the Arizona Cardinals. Me and Pigskin are going to rotate odds, evens. Pigskin's got the evens. I'll take the odds. So Cardinals here at pick 3. If I'm the Cardinals GM, I'm on the phone right now wielding trade offers,
Me
seeing
too.
who wants to move up. But the problem is now that Stroud's gone, I'm not getting as many calls as I was hoping. Because I was thinking
Yeah.
maybe the Texans might go defense, in which case Stroud would still be there and teams would be chomping at the bit to move up to 3. But since Stroud's going, I'm not really getting the offers I'm wanting. And plus, I mean, the Cardinals roster is pretty bad, especially on defense. And if you've got a guy like Will Anderson sitting there, a potential generational talent at defensive end, to me, you got to take it. So I'm going to go ahead, hang up the phone, turn in my card, and select Will Anderson from Alabama.
Good move. Good move. Makes sense. He's about as sure a thing as you're going to get. I think the only thing that people have to realize is Alabama players come out about as pro ready as they're ever going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So chances are the upside, the ceiling that you might find on a Will Anderson, he's pretty close to being there already. Maybe you can teach him a few new tricks, but he's still darn good and a lot better than most of what the Cardinals have in uniform right now. So I'm with you on that one, Spence. I think the Colts need to find their quarterback just like Houston does.
Yeah.
I think they finally decided that rolling the dice every year or every other year on a 35 plus year old veteran quarterback that's near the end of the trail is not the way to go. And it's backfired on them. It's gotten worse instead of better. Probably when Rivers was there, that was the best they had. Then Wentz was a disaster and Ryan was a disaster. Let's get with it, boys. I think they will take Will Levis from Kentucky.
Mm.
And I would not have said that to you a month or two ago, but I got to confess, the old master, Mel Kiper, is the guy that switched me around about Levis. I've always been a strong believer that, especially with the quarterback position, when you look at their numbers and you look at what they do, you have to take into account who do they have to work with? How good is the offensive line in college? Did they have any star players? I got news for you. I did a check, and at least on my board, I didn't check Collins, the one you've got up, but on my board, I only found 2 Kentucky Wildcats eligible for this draft that might get drafted. And neither one of them is going till day 3. And only one of them, running back Rodriguez, played offense. So Will Levis, basically, whatever he's done, all he had the year before was Wandale Robinson, who transferred from Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
He has not had a whole lot to work with at Kentucky. And then you throw on top of it, he was the only quarterback they really had. His ankle got screwed up by the end of September. And until it got to be the end of the year, he trotted out there and tried to play. His 2022 numbers don't mean a thing, in my opinion. You go back to 2021, he was healthy, he had a couple of weapons, and he was a top-notch quarterback. And his arm is an absolute cannon. And believe it or not, they're not questioning his IQ or whatever that new test is. So I say go for it, Colts. Will Levis from Kentucky.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's what they do. He's the betting favorite there, the Vegas odds for who's going where. He's the favorite to go number 4. And I feel like, he's kind of flawed in that he has a lot of turnovers in college. I get the arm strength thing and the fact that he didn't have many weapons. Or I wouldn't say the Colts would be idiots for this pick, but it's just like, damn, it's like you've had all this quarterback turmoil since Andrew Luck. So you gotta you gotta hope this hits. Because if
Yep.
it doesn't, you're going to be in for another few years of hell until then you'd have to go back to the well and try to replace Levis. But we'll see. I mean, I'm not writing Levis off yet. His turnover rate in college is, let's just say, it was scary high.
Yeah, but most of it was last season. You go
Mm.
back to 2021, and he had like a 3-to-1 touchdown to
Oh,
interception.
okay. That's not
Okay,
bad.
again, when Wandale Robinson was there
Right, when
to
he actually
catch the
had some
ball.
weapons. Yeah, and then with the Colts, at least he'll have Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Jonathan Taylor in the
Yeah,
backfield. So
yeah,
it's not like
no,
they're
and
totally barren on that side of the
yeah,
ball.
and Spence, that's the other thing that I think you have to take into mind. If they need a quarterback, and I think we all know they do, okay, Richardson from Florida, he's not going to be ready for a
Right,
couple
he's
of
more of a
years.
project. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you rush him, you're going to destroy him, perhaps. Um, so, again, by the time, let's say Richardson is ready in 3 seasons, well, by then, Jonathan Taylor probably be all used up, and somebody else is going to be hurt and ended his career early. Right now, the Colts still have a lot of good mid to late 20s talent on that roster if you get the right quarterback in play. So Richardson is out from my perspective because he isn't going to be ready to jump in, and that's what they need right now, just like Houston.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, Levis could use a little work too, but probably not as much of a project as Richardson. One report had come out and said that they're thinking the Colts might prefer him because he is more, as they say, pro ready. But
Yes,
yeah. So
it's
moving
all
on here.
relative.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We'll see how it ends up. But Seahawks here picking 5. I'm thinking that they go defense because I mean last year Seattle's offense very impressive under Geno Smith. So I definitely don't
Yeah,
see them going quarterback. I know some people are saying, oh, they might go QB because Geno is over 30, but I mean Geno was a top 10 QB last year. I really don't see them going quarterback, especially with the NFC West being pretty open with both the Cardinals and the Rams struggling right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and mock the next best edge rusher in the class to Seattle there, and in Texas Tech's Tyree Wilson, a guy who might have the most upside among these defensive players.
yeah, I think you might be right on that one, Spence. Although I will tell you, depending on depending on what has been learned in the interview process, if they thought Jalen Carter was not too flawed and damaged off the field, I think he would be a great fit for Seattle in the middle of
Right.
that defensive line. But who knows? You know, he's out there in limbo just like the quarterback situation
Yep.
because of the off-field junk.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, if it wasn't for that, I'd have definitely mocked Carter there to 5. But I just feel like if it's close, it's like you're gonna go with the guy who doesn't have the off-field concerns.
Absolutely.
And so yeah.
Although, as they say, Pete Carroll's pretty fearless when it comes to some of those things, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's why I almost put Carter there. It was a coin flip. It's definitely going to be one of those two, I'd say, unless Anderson would fall, because some mocks have Wilson going as high to the Texans at 2.
Yeah.
But, assuming Texans go QB, I would think the Cardinals play it safe with Anderson. And Wilson, though, I mean, his stock's rising. He's been on the rise. And, Texas Tech, not a high profile program, but he's obviously got the skills needed to be an elite edge rusher. And so we'll see if it pans out. But Seattle, I think, is a good landing spot for him because with that strong secondary, they've
Yep.
rebuilt that secondary to where the pass rush will have opportunities to get to the QB. So feeling like he'd be a good fit on the edge there. And so now we move on to the Detroit Lions at pick 6, stealing that pick from the aforementioned LA Rams.
Yeah, and based on what I just said to you, I take a look. The Lions are absolutely an ascending team, and they got another pick, as you said. I'm going to take a chance here. I think Detroit. I did watch the NFL Films programming last year when the Lions were the team in the spotlight. And
Yeah, the Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks, and they look like they've got about as strong a coaching staff and as stable a locker room as you can have. I'm giving them Jalen Carter from Georgia on the assumption that they think they can keep him straight, and maybe they'll just give him a full-time chauffeur and take his car keys away.
Right? Yeah. I mean, if you can keep him right, that's he's definitely the BPA, I'd say, best player available. You know, even though the board saying Bijan Robinson, but the Lions don't need a running back there. Pretty set at that position. To where, yeah, Jalen Carter, if you can keep his head screwed on straight, that would be a menacing force in the middle of that's an ascending defense. There you had Aiden Hutchinson last year. You know, you beefed up the secondary this offseason. So yeah, if Carter, if that pick would turn out to be true and it hits, man, Lions are looking scary.
Yeah, they are. Hey, I'm picking the Lions to win the NFC North this year.
Yeah, I think it's very possible because with the Packers down, Vikings were frauds last year, and the Bears
Yep.
rebuilding. It's the Lions division for the taking. Hell, they're favored at Caesars Sportsbook to win the division. The
There you
sportsbooks aren't
go.
sleeping on them.
There
Lions
you
are for
go.
real, and we know they know their stuff in Vegas. So
Yeah.
I'm all in with the Lions. But we'll see how they end up. Carter would definitely be an intriguing fit if he makes it to them. So moving on here to Vegas, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Uh-huh.
And they're kind of in an interesting spot here because they could go quarterback, you know, but they just paid Jimmy Garoppolo a good amount of money this offseason, where I think they'll give him at least a year to see if he's a franchise quarterback. I don't think he is, but I think Josh McDaniels is stubborn and thinks he might be, to where I don't see them going QB here. And plus, they've got so many needs on defense, especially in the secondary. So I'm going to go ahead and give them the top cornerback in the class in Devon Witherspoon from Illinois.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, Spence. I I'm with you. You know, they need everything. They really do. They made the decision, I think, and I'm guessing it was the owner, another Davis in charge here. They clearly made the decision to make an example out of Gruden and Mayock and just got everybody that those guys drafted off the roster.
Oh, yeah. It
And I
cleaned
think,
house. Yeah.
and in my opinion, too much. Not all those guys were dogs, not by a long shot. Um, and they're going to pay for that because they've got a couple of year rebuilding project on that roster to go through now, because they're, you know, they might be second worst roster in the league, just ahead of the Cardinals at this stage.
Yeah, and they want to hell their Vegas over in it to win it, baby. But they look pretty rough right now. So yeah, I just think though they need secondary help. So Witherspoon would be a good fit there. And then by the time they do get good, he'd probably be entering his prime. So should be
Yep.
a solid fit there. Moving on here to pick 8, the Atlanta Falcons, the Dirty Birds, our boy Billy Rickman's former team.
Yeah, our buddy Bill. Hey, Bill,
Yes,
watch
shout out to
him.
Bill. Yeah, hopefully he's tuning in.
You know, his buddy June Jones is still coaching over in the XFL. Um,
Roots run deep.
you know, this is a this will probably strike people as a strange pick, um, but I don't think it's as big a reach as some people might think. I'm half tempted to give him Bijan Robinson because Arthur Smith wants to run the ball first and then pass second.
Yeah,
But I personally think that between Tyler Algier, the rookie last season,
right.
and Patterson, who can do everything from different positions, I don't think their running game needs any help at this stage of the game. And their offensive line is good.
Yeah.
I am going the other direction, and I'm going to reach up a little bit, but I really like Nolan Smith the edge rusher from Georgia. You
Mm-hmm.
know, basically he missed last season with, I'm trying to remember, was it a shoulder or a pectoral injury that took him out? One or the other. It was an upper body injury.
Yeah.
Um, but man, he is, you know, what was the number? He was 6'2" and 238 at the combine. And at 238 pounds, whoops, we got to go to page 2 because there's so many edge rushers here. I'm looking at my notes here from the combine. Nolan
Mm-hmm.
Smith at 6'2", 238 ran a 4.3940.
Damn, that's fast for they're an edge guy.
How do you block a guy like that? I think
He's gonna
basically
be a
you call him,
force.
yeah, I think you call him an outside linebacker, and then you line him up wherever you want and cut him loose. Go get the quarterback. That's all we want you to do. Go for now, at least. Go get the quarterback. I know it's a bit of a reach, but I think for what they need and what he can do, and I think he's got a good reputation in the locker room and on the team. You can't go bad with a local boy that's got a good rep. I mean, he could be a bonanza for the Falcons off the field. You know, get him to go to the signings and things of that nature around the Atlanta area.
Right.
And let's face it, you know, the owner of the Falcons is a businessman,
Oh yeah, Arthur
and
Blank. Yeah.
yeah, you know, he's going to think about those things. Home Depot got him a lot of money, and he was a big part of that. So Nolan Smith, edge rusher, outside linebacker from Georgia.
Yeah, I can see it. I don't really view it as much of a reach. I mean, a lot of big boards have him as the third best edge rusher, as Collins here does. So it's I think it's a solid pick because they really need pass rushing help. They've needed that now for the past like 5 years. So yeah, ever since Abraham, their feared pass rusher, retired, they've been pretty weak there. So
And
yeah, I think Nolan Smith would fit the bill.
and when Beasley crashed and burned as their number one. Remember
Yeah, I
Beasley
forgot
from
about him. Yeah,
Clemson?
Vic
Yeah,
Beasley. Yeah, he basically took Abraham's spot, and then he had a great year right
one
after, and
year.
then when he
Yep.
just 1 year wonder. So
And
so
he's
yeah,
playing in the XFL right now. He's on a team in the XFL.
him and Josh Gordon. That's funny. Yeah, he's
There you
one
go.
year
Yes.
wonder.
Yes.
Oh boy. But yeah, moving on here to the Chicago Bears, who traded back to 9. And I think they're in a good spot here because they've got their quarterback of the future in Justin Fields. And now they just need to protect him. To where, to me, you got to go with offensive line. And it's tough to know where they're going because you've got 3 elite offensive tackles in this class, I'd say. But I feel like the name has been gaining a lot of steam lately is Paris Johnson. And he goes to an elite program there in Ohio State. So I'm going to go ahead and mock Paris Johnson, offensive tackle from the Buckeyes, to the Chicago Bears at pick 9.
Smart man. Smart man, you are, sir. Um, and I say that because you hear so much buzz, or I do at least, about Skoronski.
Right.
Okay. And yeah, he's the local boy, but he doesn't have length. And if you end up having to move him, they claim he's the best technically sound offensive lineman in this draft. But physically, he's middle of the road. I think he'll be successful in the NFL. I like him, especially since his granddad was a Packer, Bob Skoronski. Um, but Paris Johnson is huge. He's long. He played 2 years at guard so they could get their best players on the field, move to tackle and look like he belonged there. I like it. I think you got the right position, and I like him better than just picking the local kid.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, him and Skoronski, they're right neck and neck on the board. Skoronski actually one ahead of him, but I feel like Pigskin said, that Johnson is probably the overall more complete tackle here. And if you're the Bears, you need to hit on this pick. You've got to protect Justin Fields there on that blind side. So going Paris Johnson there to fill that hole. And now on the pick 10, the Philadelphia Eagles. via my New Orleans Saints.
And they are having a party right now, if this is the real draft, because they've got guys at places that they want to bolster, a plenty to choose from. I'm gonna spin back. I'm real tempted to take Broderick Jones from Georgia, but I'm not gonna. I am gonna go with the guy you passed up, and rightfully so. But I'll give him. I'll give you the nod, Spence, and I'll say they're going to take the second best cornerback in this draft, and they're going to take Christian Gonzalez from Oregon.
Mm,
Great
yeah,
athlete. He's got the size that Witherspoon doesn't have, which in and of itself doesn't mean much because Witherspoon's okay size.
yeah,
But both of their cornerbacks, Slay, and they kept Bradbury to everybody's surprise. Both those guys, by the time next year rolls around, are in their 30s. You don't
right.
see too many 30-plus-year-old cornerbacks in the NFL that really stand out. Gonzalez, I think, will play in some of their nickel and dime packages as a rookie until one or two things happens. Either Bradbury or Slay gets hurt, or they pick the position he's best at and they groom him for next year. But Christian Gonzalez from Oregon, who's a smooth operator on the football field.
For sure. Yeah, logic makes sense there out of the Eagles. Yeah, I mean, you think, oh, they're great at cornerback. They've got Slay and Bradbury, but with their ages, you got to think ahead. So, the Eagles are a roster that's it's a good roster still, but a lot of aging guys, same thing like with their defensive line, Fletcher
Yep.
Cox, their O line, Jason Kelsey. They could go in a variety of directions with a lot of aging stars on that team, but Christian Gonzalez makes sense though at pick 10. He's definitely an elite prospect. So moving on to 11, the Tennessee Titans. If I'm the Titans, I'm pretty happy because I've got options. Got a lot of good offensive linemen there. The Titans need O-line help, but if I'm the Titans, it's a new regime, new GM. I'm looking to make my mark, and I think the first thing I've got to do, I've got to wipe my hands clean of Malik Willis because Malik Willis was a disaster last year, a disaster. I mean, it's hard to write someone off after just a few starts, but damn, he looked bad. So we're gonna go ahead and turn the page here. New era at quarterback, going with the freak athlete, combine darling, Mr. Anthony Richardson out of Florida to get some excitement there in Tennessee after that just awful ending the last season.
Yeah, that's you're absolutely right. I mean, let's face it. We'll see this year, like Desmond Ridder gets his chance to start at quarterback for the Falcons. But as we expected, the quarterback class was mediocre at best last year.
No, it was below mediocre in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I know. I was trying to be kind,
Yeah,
Spence. It's,
yeah, for sure, for
it's
sure, for
Sunday.
sure.
I'm trying to be
Yeah,
kind.
yeah, it's still early. It's only 1 year in, so yeah, I hear you.
I like it. I think Richardson has as much or more upside than any quarterback in the last 5 seasons. But it is upside and it is potential. And we all know that, potential has gotten a lot of coaching staffs and a lot of GMs fired. The biggest question I really have though is they've got to be patient. And I don't think 1 year is going to be enough to have him ready
Yeah, they
because
still got Tannehill.
yeah, I think they're going to have to try to hold on to Tannehill for at least 2 more seasons. The only thing that I question about this guy in Tennessee, I truly wonder if Mike Vrabel has the patience to wait for his number one position player to, he's going to be pulling his hair out if Richardson starts, damn well that Richardson is going to hit a spell if he goes whatever team he goes to, and let's say by October they got him in the starting lineup, he's going to hit a spell where he's going to have 2 or 3 consecutive games where he throws twice as many interceptions as he does touchdown passes. Mike Vrabel might shoot him in the locker room. We'll see. Let me put it this way. If this is how it goes down, Spence, this is going to be fun because I want to see how Vrabel handles this. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point because yeah, after the Willis disaster last year, Vrabel might be like, "No, we're not going QB again." In which case, they probably will go line. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like though with this new GM, they might be able to sell him and be like, "Look, Richardson's a freak athlete. He's a huge upgrade over Willis." So that's what I'm banking on here. But
Yeah.
again, we'll see how it goes. It's gonna be a wild show, especially for that AFC South with all those teams in flux. So speaking of AFC South, Texans with another pick here at pick 12. Where do they go?
Yeah. Well, I think as we discussed, there's lots of places they can go. It's a heck of a lot better team than it was when Caserio took over 3 years ago. But they still need, in my opinion, at least 2 more drafts this year and next year, and then open up the pocketbook for 2 or 3 key veteran free agents. So I'm still going to go after some needs, and I think, their best edge rusher is Jerry Hughes. And I think Jerry Hughes is over the age of 35. I mean, it's not even
Yeah,
close.
he's been around.
He's been around a long time. So I'm going to say, if I'm Houston, let's try to take care of that. And I find Miles Murphy of Clemson to be a very interesting prospect. I refuse to categorize him as an edge rusher because I think he truly can play defensive end with his hand on the ground most of the time, and he's still going to be an edge rusher and get sacks. So I say Miles Murphy, defensive line / edge from Clemson.
For sure. Yeah, and they're a 4-3, so yeah, he should be a good fit there. And he'll be like a 4-3 defensive end
Yep.
kind of guy, so he can put his hands in the dirt and rush the passer. So yeah, I could see that being a good fit. His stock seems like it's been kind of on the decline, but we know how that goes. A lot of that smoke screens to where he should still be a top pick here. Might not go in the top 10 like some were thinking a while back, but yeah, here at 12, it'll be a good fit. It's see that the Texans definitely need edge rush help, but a lot of people have them going there at 2, either Anderson or Wilson, but Murphy at 12 would be a nice consolation prize.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. So moving on now to the New York Jets,
Jets.
At 13. Which it was funny. I was going back and watched a video on who's been the worst drafting team of the past decade, and sure enough, Gang Green, the New York Jets, dead last at drafting, right next to the Cleveland Browns. The Browns actually slightly better than the freaking Jets, but last year's draft for the Jets looked really promising. Had both the offensive and defensive rookie of the year, so maybe they finally figured something out over there, and now I fear on the cusp of landing future Hall of Famer and Aaron Rodgers. So they're gonna, if they want Rodgers to pan out, though, they're gonna need to protect him. So to me, if you're here at 13, you got to go offensive tackle, and to me, you've got a gift because Peter Skoronski from Northwestern and a lot of mocks is already gone at this point. If you can get him at 13, to me, the Jets should go run the turn in that card.
Yes, sir. They really do. They need to. My comment is, and remember, I was in Wisconsin, so I was a Packers fan. I've had it with Aaron Rodgers and his attitude. I think it sucks. Okay, just in general.
Going on my ayahuasca journey, my darkness retreat.
Yeah, guys, every time a ball isn't caught, it's the receiver's fault. Never his.
All these rookie receivers, they're just.
No, he's a phony. His ego's gotten away. May I tell you my theory on why the trade hasn't been consummated yet? I know this is a mock draft, but I have a very strong feeling that the trade is not going to happen before this draft or during this draft. It's not going to happen till June 1st. Because if the Packers wait till June 1st, they get to split the 50 million dead cap dollars over the next 2 years instead of all of it in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And if you pull up a depth chart right now for the Green Bay Packers, you'll see what this cap is doing to them because they're still carrying Rodgers right now, and it's killing them.
Yeah.
They only
Yeah, their
have like
roster looks rough.
63 players under contract for next year. So anyway, I am with you. This will get done. I don't think it gets done till June 1st when they can write off his big salary in 2 years, not one. And they'll load up for next year's draft, which a lot of people think is going to be a better draft overall. Like, let's say Jordan Love goes in and stinks this year. Hey, they might lose 12 games. They might be in the running for one of the 2 or 3 top quarterbacks next year in Green Bay. So
Yep, you
I'm
never
with you.
know.
You have to go on the assumption, and according to a thing I saw where Boomer Esiason had the Jets general manager on with him, he started teasing him, and the guy said, he'll be here. I guarantee you he'll be here. So
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
you're right. They absolutely need to protect him. Okay, I got the Patriots, my childhood team, the
Yep, Bill
Patriots.
Belichick. What's Wild Bill gonna do this year? He's always got something up his sleeve, it
Yeah,
seems.
he does. He does. I'll tell you what, this is, it's really interesting. I'll tell you where I give some thought. Bijan Robinson. Now
Ooh, that'd be spicy.
They already got Ramondre Stevenson. They're going to have to draft a running back this year somewhere, because Harris went as a veteran free agent, which, if you follow the Patriots, you knew he was leaving. They weren't going to give him a second contract.
Yeah.
Um, and they got a couple of last year's rookies, but they could certainly make use of Ramondre Stevenson and Bijan Robinson. You know, when you put Robinson on the field, you just call Stevenson a fullback and go for it. But I'm not doing that. Their offensive line sucks. Mac Jones had 2 problems last year. Bill Belichick screwing around with his offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, playing games with that.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And you make Matt Patricia the guy calling the offensive plays. And
what a joke.
I mean,
that was so embarrassing.
It was ridiculous. If I were Bob Kraft, I would have seriously given some thought to firing Belichick.
Wow.
Okay.
Man, goes from winning 6 Super Bowls to getting canned. Man, how the mighty have fallen.
I guess it tells you something about Tom Brady again, doesn't it? I hate to admit it, but and Belichick, I think, is just talk about nepotism. Do you realize that 2 of his defensive coaches are his 2 sons?
Oh, I knew Steve Belichick was on the staff. I
didn't know he had
another
the younger brother's over there now too.
Oh boy.
I think Bill's protecting jobs. So anyway, enough of the Patriots chatter. See, my 2 teams are both messed up. Packers and Patriots.
Yeah, they're picking next to each other here. Used to picking late in the draft. Now they're good. They're just they're not trending in the right direction here.
Well, and don't bet against them trading. Don't bet against Belichick trading out. And getting something late in this round plus an extra number 2 or something like that. But we're not doing that. Their offensive line stinks. Broderick Jones, offensive tackle from Georgia. He will be a starter as a rookie. He'll be in a Pro Bowl in 3 or 4 years. He's the real deal.
Wow. Yeah, they went O-line last year first. They got made fun of because they took the guard from the small school, Cole Strange, which is
how'd that work
what a
out,
strange pick, but it worked out. He started every game as a rookie.
Every game. He was on the all-rookie team, started every game, and I watched Patriot games because I was rooting for him for so many years. He did fine. He was probably their second best offensive lineman as a small school rookie first-round shock draft pick. Broderick Jones is no surprise, though. This guy's for real. You know what I love? I love a guy. They thought that Broderick Jones, because he started at guard at Georgia, they thought he was going to show up at the combine, and the flaw might show up that maybe he's a little too short for a tackle and his arms aren't long enough. Let me pull up my chart here, Spence. Give me a minute.
For
Talk
sure.
amongst yourselves. As they
Cool.
used to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Well, I'll well, yeah, yeah, we can circle back to Jones. I'll go ahead and get the pick in for your Green Bay
Okay.
Packers, Pigskin. But I'll we've had a lot of actually not we had 2 offensive linemen go. So if I'm the Packers here, I'm looking maybe at defense because their defense did kind of take a step back last year. Which I mean, Rodgers, as good as he was in his MVP years, it also helped that his defense was good. And then last year, when his defense took a step back, he also took a step back. So,
Yes, he did. They did too. Yes, you're right.
but if I'm them though, I feel like the defense is still okay enough to where you need offense, man. You need to get Jordan Love some weapons because if Jordan Love's gonna have any success at the NFL level, he's got to have people to throw to besides Christian Watson. I mean, I know Christian Watson really shined in the second half of last season, but you got to have more than just him. So to me, the Packers, their tight end room is an eyesore right now. You lost
Yes,
Robert
it is.
Tonyan. Mercedes Lewis gonna go follow Rodgers more than likely, to where all you've got is the Josiah DeGuara, and I think that's it. They don't really have anything else on there in that tight end room right now. So to me, you got to go with who's I've gotten swayed here. I was saying Dalton Kincaid was the number 1 tight end, but looking at it, I feel like Michael Mayer from Notre Dame is a little more complete tight end. And to me, if I'm Green Bay, I want someone that can step in and play all 3 downs. I'm going to go ahead and select Michael Mayer.
Okay, I got you. I don't think that's a bad at all, and your rationale is 100% solid. Their tight end room is empty. You
Yeah, there's
turn the
nothing there. The
you open
cupboard
the
is
door and
bare.
turn on the light, and there's nobody in there except the
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and I think Michael Mayer, for Packer fans, you're kind of young, Spence, compared to me. Well, he's not that long ago. I think Michael Mayer, he's not going to lead the team and have 80 catches, okay? But you're right. He's the best all around. And I think he'll give them what a guy that they took in round 1 a couple decades ago, Bubba Franks,
Mm,
out of Miami, Florida. He's going to give them what Bubba Franks did. He'll
yeah.
block and he'll receive. And
Yeah.
he won't be a lot of touchdowns, won't be a lot of downfield stuff, but he'll catch it and he'll run over some people and get a first down, and then he'll block somebody out of bounds on the next play. So I'm with you there. It feels like a Packers kind of pick to me. So good job, Spence. Before I go to the Washington football team, because I hate the name Commanders. I am not
Right.
calling them that. Let's go back to Broderick Jones from Georgia. There were
Yeah.
concerns that he might come in at about 6'4" with short arms, showed up at the combine, and Broderick Jones was 6'5.5", 10 5/8 inch hands, 82 3/4 inch wingspan, and 34 3/4 inch arms. I think that really sewed up a early or beginning of first round pick. Plus, he ran a 4.9740. I think he could have been a top 10 pick with those numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of offensive tackle talent up there because you got everyone's talking about Skoronski and Johnson, but you got Jones and Darnell Wright who are they could also be top 10 picks.
Yep, exactly. Okay, now I got a tough one here with the Washington football team. I would
Finally,
be
some new
really,
ownership.
yeah, I would be, well, there's a lot of good to say about that. And as long as ownership is smart and sticks with Ron Rivera running the team, I think they need, he has helped that team get respectable despite the efforts of Daniel Snyder.
Right.
And he deserves to be head coach and some other position as well. Not general manager. That doesn't. We know that doesn't work. But if they keep him, I'm really tempted here. Bijan Robinson would look great in a Ron Rivera offense, but they got a pretty crowded running back room already with how surprisingly good Brian Robinson was from Alabama. I don't know about
Right.
you, Spence. I didn't see that kind of season coming, especially after he took bullets in his leg in August. Um, but they've got a good running back room already. So I guess I won't go there. I'm going to do another semi reach here based on need. Their secondary, especially the safety position, is pretty weak right now in Washington. And even though he didn't turn in spectacular numbers, I think the best safety prospect, and he should be able to win a starting job, Brian Branch from Alabama.
Yeah,
He's, you know,
Brian
he's
Branch. Yep. Yep.
he is, for a safety, he'll be good in coverage. Cornerback in the NFL, I don't know about that. He's not that fast. He's an excellent tackler. In this day and age where you got, let's face it, there's an awful lot of pretenders in the NFL when it comes to tackling.
Yep.
And he's not. And he seems to be a smart football player. He always seems to find the loose ball or, picks up the deflected pass or whatever. So I'll say that to go with some already good cornerbacks, they had Brian Branch to the safety group.
Yeah, I could see that for sure because yeah, they definitely need secondary help. A lot of mocks have them going with a more traditional cornerback, but yeah, they could. I mean, Brian Branch is the kind of guy that could be a good like nickel safety. He could cover
Yes.
some without having to cover all the time. We're seeing more and more defenses with their base defenses shifting to 4-2-5, where you got only 2 linebackers and then 5 DBs. So yeah, the Branch could definitely fit in as that fifth DB in that nickel role. So, which is becoming more and more valuable with offenses going with these spread 3-4 wide receiver sets. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Spence, I'm not leaving. I got to go to the fridge and get a water. So,
All good. Yeah, actually a good time. And yeah, we'll take a little halftime break here. That's where we're
okay,
halfway through, 16. Actually, we're a little over halfway through because it's only
that's right.
31 this year. But yeah, we'll recap it here before we move on to 17 to 32. So here we go. Pick 1, we had Bryce Young to the Carolina Panthers. Pick 2, CJ Stroud to the Houston Texans. Pick 3, Will Anderson to the Arizona Cardinals. Edge from Alabama. Pick 4, Will Levis, quarterback from Kentucky to the Indianapolis Colts. Pick 5, Tyree Wilson, edge rusher from Texas Tech to the Seattle Seahawks. Pick 6, Jalen Carter, defensive tackle from Georgia to the Detroit Lions. Pick 7, Devon Witherspoon, cornerback from Illinois to the Las Vegas Raiders. Pick 8, Nolan Smith from Georgia, edge, Atlanta Falcons. Pick 9, Paris Johnson from Ohio State, offensive tackle to the Chicago Bears. Pick 10, Christian Gonzalez, cornerback from Oregon to the Philadelphia Eagles. Pick 11, Anthony Richardson, quarterback from Florida to the Tennessee Titans. Pick 12, Miles Murphy from Clemson, edge rusher to the Houston Texans. Pick 13, Peter Skoronski, offensive tackle from Northwestern to the New York Jets. Pick 14, Broderick Jones, offensive tackle from Georgia to the New England Patriots. Pick 15, Michael Mayer, tight end from Notre Dame to the Green Bay Packers. And pick 16, Brian Branch, safety from Alabama to the Washington Commanders. And looking at the big board here as we go down, Bijan Robinson, best available player according to the board here, and then Jackson Smith and Jigba not far behind. And then as far as best defensive player available, Lucas Van Ness, edge rusher from Iowa, still out there. And then best available offensive tackle, Darnell Wright from Tennessee, still there. Dalton Kincaid, the big athletic tight end from Utah, also still there. Then we got Joey Porter, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Deontay Banks, Kalijah Cansey, Emmanuel Forbes, Will McDonald, all still there. And we see here, no one outside of the top 32 has been selected yet. We've still got, we obviously got 64 names here. Haven't had any super reaches so far, but that's some interesting stuff here as we move on here to pick 17 and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, and speaking of that, I think I'm gonna go get some water here, and we'll be back for pick 17 here in just